The Secretary of Defense is hereby ordered to cease and desist all bombing and other military intervention into the sovereign territory of Pakistan. The CIA is hereby directed to cease and desist all covert operations on the territory of Pakistan, Sudan, Burma, and other countries which will be specified. At the same time, we have informed the Polish government and the Czech government that there will be no European missile crisis, no Polish missile crisis. The reckless and irresponsible, ill-advised project of the Bush administration to place anti-ballistic missiles into Poland is hereby abrogated and brought to a halt. At the same time, we look forward to cooperating to all of these countries that have been mentioned in the area of Marshall Plan reconstruction based on the export of high-technology capital goods to these countries under conditions that will allow them to pay for this, creating jobs and economic development here in the United States. A special word for Russia. Russia is a traditional friend of the United States. During the American Revolution, it was Catherine the Great who helped to organize the League of Armed Neutrality, a key supplement to the young American Navy on the oceans of the world against the superior British fleet. It was in 1863 that Tsar Alexander II sent the Russian fleets to New York and San Francisco as a sure sign to the British and the French that if they intervened in favor of the Confederacy, they would face war in Europe and likely destruction. In September 2001, the restraint of Russian President Putin was instrumental in pulling the world back from the brink of a possible thermonuclear exchange, which was implicit in the events of that day. The United States has no conflicts of interest with Russia whatsoever, and we look forward to a new era of Russian-American friendship similar to the one promoted by Abraham Lincoln and his ambassador Cassius Clay in St. Petersburg at that time. I hereby warn the governments of Ukraine, Poland, Georgia, and other countries that further acts of provocation against Russia will not enjoy the support of the United States. In addressing the people of China, we must also respect the territorial integrity of China. This means stopping any CIA support for Muslim insurgency and terrorist movements in the areas of Chinese Turkestan, Xinjiang province, or anywhere else on Chinese territory. Concerning the delicate question of Taiwan, I propose a solution based on the long-term wisdom of the Chinese classics and the Chinese sages, that is to say that the Republic of China and Taiwan accept in principle the sovereignty of the government in Beijing, with the details to be worked out over a period of between 50 and 100 years, thereby immediately freezing any question of Taiwan independence and putting Taiwan, as was done with Hong Kong, on a long-term track towards reintegration with the mainland, also following the example of Macau. To the DPRK, North Korea, I say that the United States will not attack you under any circumstances, and that we offer you the non-aggression pact formally signed, which you have requested, which we will then back up with a Marshall Plan for the entire region. CIA covert operations among friendly countries are hereby halted. We can promise that there will be no more color revolutions, no more CIA people power coups, no support for the products of those coups in Ukraine, Georgia, Poland, Kosovo, and elsewhere. In terms of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, we are calling a halt to all out-of-area deployments. NATO must revert to its previous positive role as a purely defensive alliance in the limited geographical area of the North Atlantic, and we imagine that its activity will become calmer and calmer as the decades go by. In terms of institutional reform here in the United States, we announced the creation of a Terrorism and Assassination Truth Commission to look back to the questions of September 11th, the Kennedy assassination, the Robert Kennedy assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, the Bay of Pigs, and Pearl Harbor, to name just a few. We will welcome evidence being given by opposition figures, dissidents, foreigners, or any other person who will be given the full opportunity to make their points and a respectful hearing, and the entire proceedings will be available on the Internet and also on cable television. Concerning Pearl Harbor, we expect that Franklin D. Roosevelt will be completely exonerated from the absurd charges that have been made against him by the Roosevelt haters over the decades, the reactionary Republicans of the Hamilton Fish School, and that it will be found that Colonel Stimson, General Marshall, Admiral Richmond K. Turner, and Winston S. Churchill were responsible for withholding the necessary intelligence and generally sabotaging the possibility of warding off this attack. All of these efforts must be crowned by the calling of a Bretton Woods conference of all sovereign states in the world, starting with great powers such as the European Union, Japan, Russia, China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, Pakistan, South Africa, Nigeria, and others, to create a new world monetary system of the type which has not existed since August 15th, 1971. Necessary components of this system will be a system of fixed parities or narrow bands of fluctuation among the major currencies to remove and obviate the element of risk which has brought the economic activity of the world to the point of breakdown. We will also need to introduce gold settlement, that is the clearing and settling of balances among the central banks of nations in terms of gold bullion as a reality principle, and to prevent countries from chronically running deficits and neglecting their productive plant and equipment, as has so obviously happened in the United States. The goal of this system must be written into the treaty. It is to provide the fullest degree of scientific, technological, and economic development in industry and agriculture for all of humanity, including high technology, high wage, high energy intensity, high capital intensity, and high living standard jobs. We must recall that wealth must be produced before it can be distributed. The distribution of existing wealth will be woefully insufficient and will hardly be noticeable in the more poverty-stricken areas of South Asia and sub-Saharan Africa. We propose that the world be rebuilt according to a series of great projects, starting with such long-delayed reforms as the Dakar to Djibouti Magnetic Levitation Railway, the Cape to Cairo Magnetic Levitation Railway, the building of a comprehensive Nile-Congo River system of internal and coastal waterways, and related projects applied to other parts of the world. We say to Latin America that the era of American interference and imperialism into Latin America has now come to an end, and the good neighbor policy is in force. The United States will look with favor on efforts for the economic integration of Latin America from the point of view of rationalizing, streamlining, and making that economy more efficient. And to crown these efforts, I am declaring a comprehensive, unlimited debt moratorium for the duration of the crisis on all international financial debt owed to the Club of Paris and the Club of London, as well as to the United States Federal Reserve or the United States Treasury. No longer will debt service be allowed to cause genocide and the death of human beings in Africa, South Asia, or any other part of the world. The motivation of this program is to promote the end of the era of clash of civilizations and clash of religions, as we will explain.